Hi, my name is Dawid Czarnecki, and I'm a CEO and cybersecurity expert in Zgreen Security. In this video, I would like to explain you some basic concepts of automated application security testing. And before I do this, I will introduce myself. I have over 11 years of experience in cybersecurity, mainly on the offensive side. I helped fixing hundreds of vulnerabilities in various different organizations, including NATO Cybersecurity Center. And if you would like to learn more, you can check out our advisories page, zgreen.com/advisories, where we publish information about some CVEs and vulnerabilities that we discover in open source and commercial products. So recently we open sourced a solution to automatically identify vulnerabilities in web applications based on concept called IAST, which stands for Interactive Application Security Testing. And this made me think that it may be worth explaining what are the other approaches, and one of the basic ones is SAST, which stands for Static Application Security Testing. So what is static application security testing? Basically, it's this approach where you upload your source code, where you provide your source code of your web application, and the scanner analyzes the source code and tells you about vulnerabilities, like any security related problems with the source code itself that may allow some attackers get access to your application, steal your data, or do any other harmful things. And you can imagine SAST in an analogy to a car manufacturing process, where you would like to understand what are potential problems with a car before you release the car to the public. So you can imagine having like a huge conveyor belt where you put your car on the conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt basically slides the car to a huge, gigantic scanner, and the scanner is actually your SAST solution, and the car is like represents your web application. The scanner analyzes your car, and it understands that it's built from many different parts, like the door, the lock, the steering wheel, gears, and many different parts. And the scanner analyzes those parts and understands various different properties of these parts, like the size, the shape, the material that was used to build a specific part, the way those parts are connected and aligned to each other. Basically, that's the way how the SAST solution also understands your web application. So it analyzes your code, analyzes your different instructions, the flow between those instructions, and some specifics in regards to the language. After the scan is finished, basically you get information about vulnerabilities that exist in your code, about security problems that may arise there. The same way you would expect to see some potential security problems in your car after the solution scans it. So you can imagine the huge scanner that analyzed your car tells you that that the lock of the from the door is placed in a different angle. So if someone approaches the car and grabs the door handle, it can pull it under the certain pressure in a different angle, and the door may be open. And this could be one of the vulnerability that the security problem that the scanner understands and discovers basically in the car, just by analyzing various different parts and the way that these parts are aligned to each other and connected. The same way SAST solution will analyze your source code and tell you that in this place there is this vulnerability because from the other place some potential malicious threat actor can do this type of harm to you. And what are the pros and cons of this approach? So basically there are three main advantages. The first one is that It's easy to implement. So SaaS solutions are easy because you just need the source code of your application, and you provide it to the scanner, and scanner analyzes the source code and tells you about the problem in the source code. The same way in a conveyor belt, you can have car that doesn't even work actually fully, but it can have like most of the parts or even some parts. You can even scan some specific parts, and it will tell you what are the problems with these parts or just entire car. You get another advantage is that you get the information about these problems, these security related problems, early in the development process of your application. So as I said before, you can scan like separate files. You can scan specific directories of your application, or you can scan the whole repository or the whole source code that your application is composed of. The same way you can scan just specific parts of your car, provide it to the scanner, and the scanner will just tell you about problems in these specific parts. The third advantage is that the scanner knows about the internals of your application because it has access to the source code. It understands the different instructions that are there in the source code. It understands the flow, so it understands the internals of your web application. The same way the car scanner understands the internals of various different components, parts of the car, like the size, shape, and things like that. What are the disadvantages of this approach? So first of all, you will get a lot of false positives, which means that you will get information about security related problems that are actually not problems. And you can imagine having like an alert that there is a vulnerability in like there's a security problem in a car that is related to a door handle, where the door handle can be squeezed and someone can open the door just by squeezing the door handle. But in reality, to squeeze the door handle, you can imagine that a lot of energy and a lot of power is required. So any normal human being is not able to do it. It would require like some gigantic press that will allow to squeeze it and then open the door, which makes the problem completely irrelevant. No one would do this. Another disadvantage of this approach is that it often doesn't find vulnerabilities in third-party components like libraries, some frameworks, and things like that. Either because the source code is closed of these libraries or frameworks, or it's built differently in a way that the scanner doesn't understand. It doesn't understand the structure, doesn't understand the format of the language, and the way it was the library was structured, basically. And you can imagine, for example, you have an alarm system in your car, and the scanner will understand what's the size of this alarm system, what's the shape of it, because it was like the external product, external component. You bought it from like the external manufacturer. So your scanner knows about the size of the alarm system, shape, like the materials that were used to build the electronic components of the alarm system. But you can imagine that all of these elements are have no value to the security of the whole solution, like the whole car. So it will not be able to tell you exactly what are the problems with the alarm system itself. And the same way, SAST solution will not tell you, or will likely not tell you about the problems in libraries and third-party components, especially when they are closed source and you just get the library that you use instead of just source code that is scanned by the scanner. And the third disadvantage is basically lack of information about environmental errors. So whenever you scan your source code, you get information about the problems inside your web application. However, when your application is in a production, there are many other components that are involved in the whole service that your application is providing, like load balancers, reverse proxy, web servers, all of these different parts, and the configuration of these parts the configuration of these components may influence some aspects that can result in some security vulnerabilities being introduced. The SAST scanner will not tell you about these. The same way, basically, the SAST scanner of a car will not tell you about what are the problems with a car if the car is driven in the mud or on a grass, because the scanner analyzes the car on a conveyor belt, like in a laboratory, not in a environment where the car is going to be used. So these are the main disadvantages of SAST solution. If you would like to learn more, follow our page on LinkedIn, Zigrin Security. All the links are in the post above me. And thank you very much for listening.